I want to share with you a short testimony of what happened today. As I was preparing to make this video, there was someone who was calling at the intercom of our building. And I don't usually like to be distracted when I'm doing work for the kingdom of Jesus. And I was trying to keep my focus on what I'm doing, but they were calling so many times, not at my flat in particular, but other flats. But you can hear it when they call and when they speak. I live on the second floor, and I'll show you actually. They were calling from there, and you can even see the intercom on the side of the door on the right side. Right, so there was someone who was they were repeatedly calling there, and I thought maybe it's the postman. Sometimes they work on Saturday. I thought maybe it's the postman or someone with publicity, and I just went to have a look and see who it is. And I noticed I recognized them. They were Jehovah's Witnesses. Now I just want to mention that I don't say any lies. Okay, if I would be saying lies in my videos, then there would be no point for me to continue making them, because I obviously don't do them for views or subscribers. Actually, I do them for my viewers and my subscribers, but not in that way. I'm not gaining material things from it. Anyway, so these people were calling repeatedly on the intercom of my building. And I thought, okay, I'll open the door for them so they can come in. It's nice to do that. But then, as I turn around, I was thinking, you know what? If this is maybe from Jesus, and I'll just let them and see if they call my flat, and then I can invite them in and I can speak to them. Anyways, I sat down and I continued learning what the Lord has given me for today to speak in the video. And I was trying to keep my focus on my job. If they call, it's fine. If not, then maybe they leave. I'm not exaggerating. I think they called maybe another 4 or 5 times. And I was thinking, yeah, maybe they will go, because so many times they called, and I could hear them. I could hear them speaking to people, but they were just not allowing them to come in. They weren't interested to hear them. And so they finally called at my flat. And I went quickly, I answered, and I invited them. So they came, and they came at my door, and I saw there were two persons, a woman and an old man. This old man, he was having that device that helps you walk, with wheels, and you hold it, so he was a really old person. He was shaking a little bit, and anyway, I invited them inside, and they started speaking to me, and I said to them about the message that the Lord has given me to share today. And I thought maybe the Lord wants them to hear this message too. And I just know that this message was directed. I'm not sure if to both of them, but for sure at the old person, at the old man, because from what I've spoken with him, he was denying the power of God. He said God does not speak today. He spoke in the past, but we cannot hear his voice today. We just have the Bible, and he was denying this with perseverance. He was very, very against this. You know what I mean? Anyway, but before he let me know all this, I read to them this message, and the message is like this. So this is the message that I was preparing before they came to make the video. To follow Jesus, you must be guided by Him. You must know His voice. It is our responsibility to know the voice of our Master. Jesus Christ said, "My sheep know my voice. I know them and they follow me." Seek His voice, seek His guidance, love Him and obey His commandments regardless of what other people tell you. And then you will know the Lord. You will know Jesus Christ. God speaks today like He did in the past. And if we want to hear Him, if we are interested to know His voice and receive guidance from Him, it is our responsibility to seek Him, to seek His voice. We must dedicate our time to Him because Jesus promised to manifest Himself to those who love and keep His words. Jesus is faithful. He never changes. He is the same today like He was in the past. But people don't seek Him as much because they occupy their time with other things. Seek the voice of the Lord. Ask Jesus to reveal Himself to you. And don't give up until you know His voice. And only then you will know Jesus. And you will be able to follow Him. When I read this message, they were Spanish because I live in Spain. And I told them the message, I asked them if they speak English because sometimes some of them speak English, and the Lord, every time the Lord speaks to me, even though I'm Romanian and I speak Spanish almost as good as English, um, He always speaks to me. Just one time the Lord spoke to me in Romanian, and I wanted to show them the message in English. Anyway, they told me they don't speak English, so I translated the message. They could not understand how it is possible that God speaks to me, and they totally rejected the message, and they said the Bible is the final authority. Even though I mentioned to them that Bible itself says that all authority has been given, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to Jesus. And Jesus said, "My sheep know my voice, I know them and they follow me." If we don't receive guidance from Jesus, how can we follow Him? By just following what the church is telling us to preach today. Church says, okay, now you have these few verses, you go and you preach to the people these things today. This is not the guidance of God. And so I was not trying to boast about myself. The message is not about myself. It's about knowing Jesus Christ and following Him. This is what I was saying to them, that Jesus Christ is real and He speaks today. Anyway, this man was so much against this, and he was interrupting me every 2-3 words I was saying. He was interrupting me, and he tried to make me. He was concentrating on letting me know that demons speak and Satan speaks, and they believe that people they believe they should be careful of people who hear things because they will hear demons and Satan, but they are not afraid whatsoever they might be blaspheming the Holy Spirit. And I'm not speaking in my case, I'm speaking in general. You know, this is such a serious sin that we must be careful of. God is real and He speaks today like He did in the past. But if we reject Him and if we reject His words that He said, then we have no chance. We have no chance to establish a relationship with Him. I want to read to you in 2 Timothy chapter 3 what the Bible that they regard the final authority says. 2 Timothy chapter 3. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God. Attention here, please. Having a form of godliness, but denying its power. And from such people, turn away. This is what the Spirit of God says. From such people, turn away. And instead of listening to these people, you can go and seek Jesus. Seek His voice. Seek His guidance. And don't stop, don't give up until Jesus reveals himself to you. My Jesus bless you.